we don't actually realize that we are light. We have so many patterns and restrictions and contractions that this world has forced us into, boxes, right? And we think that we have to suffer in order to have this human experience. But in suffering, there is much medicine. Suffering and the darkness is there to show us what we are not, because light form is pure bliss and love and high frequency vibration. Whereas this planet is beautiful and very dense and heavy, it's there for us to experience what it is to walk in a denser form.
Hi, Peace, and welcome to my podcast, Peace Unplugged. How are you today?
Hello. I'm really okay, Martin. Thank you so much. And how serendipitous that you are Peace Unplugged, and you have me very much
Excellent.
unplugged,
That's
and I am Peace.
good to hear. It was nice that we were due to have connected last month, weren't we? And then one thing or another, things didn't quite work out right. So maybe now's the right time. So I was looking at your website and the things that you've been doing, and something that jumped out at me was quantum activator. Could you tell me a bit about that? I'm interested to know. I'm curious about quantum activator.
Okay, so my role that I have stepped into in this path on this timeline, I probably will use language that feels a little strange, but bear with, okay? And just take from what I say, what resonates with you, and just allow the rest to fall away, right? I am an activator, and I work in the realm of real deep quantum regression and integration through working with the higher planes of consciousness and plant medicine. My role is to activate others. And it's a huge thing when you are activated, because you start to remember stuff and you start to change. And it's really magical to have an activation, if you will, back into becoming who you were always meant to be. So that's basically my interpretation of being a quantum.
Really fascinates me, particularly as I recently retired end of last year after quite a few years of stressful work, and I feel like I'm now kind of leading a bit of a life that perhaps what I was meant to be perhaps a long time ago, or maybe it's just that maybe it's meant to be now as things go. Okay, so I was looking a bit further. So that's what a quantum activator is. Okay, so how did you get into all this? What prompted you to be? You strike me as being very earthy and very nature loving. No, it's okay. It might happen again. It might happen again.
So you were asking me about how I became who I am becoming,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so going back to that question, which is a really great question, thank you for asking. I have always, since a very, very young age, been deeply aware of the unseen. And that is a term that I use for what we don't see with these, right? Because we're so used to looking with just very limited senses. We have many, many more deeper senses that can and are awakening even faster right now for us. And that's part of being a quantum activator. Your clear senses come online really big time when you are activated into your soul path. So as a child, I was one of those children who was too much, too intense, too sensitive, too everything you can think. I unfortunately, I mean, I was in a family where my mum she was very psychic, but when I was very young, she shut me down because she didn't know what her gifts were until I was in sort of teenage years. So when I used to talk about imaginary friends, we've all had an imaginary friend, right, when we were kids. But to you, when you're a child, that's very real and that's your clairsense. You're talking to things that other adults can't see, because we get unfortunately conditioned as we grow up to conform, right? And to be good and to do the things and to go and get a job and all that. I'm going to be very, very careful with my language here, but all the BS that we are conditioned with. But when we are very, very, very tiny, from when we're conceived in the womb, we are very aware of so much. But between the ages of birth and 7 years old, we are then conditioned and patterned to how we see the world through our parents and our peers and our family and all the adults around us. So those gifts are often squashed, suppressed, and obliterated. I wasn't one of them. Always deeply connected to the plant realm, hearing things, seeing things, talking about fairies and mythological creatures, and very real. But unfortunately, that's not acceptable as an adult to talk about those things until we start to go, I don't care what other people think. I know what's real for me.
Okay, so it's very much about discovering your own well-being, then, isn't it? We discover who we are, don't we, as real people?
Yeah, that's why we come. Yeah, that's really how I believe why we come back into another form again is to have an experience which is very unique for all of us. And some of us choose to become assistants to humanity to help each other remember exactly who we truly are, which is not this what we look like right now.
Yeah, yeah. One of the guests I had a couple of weeks ago, a fine artist by the name of Julius Juster. His art talks an awful lot about, and I noticed again looking at your website, talking about embracing not just the good, but having to experience and be part of what is more challenging as well, the light and the darkness. Because without knowing the darkness, you don't know what the light is, and vice versa. So, would you agree with that?
I do, yeah. And I feel that we don't often realize because of the world that we're living in and always have lived in, we don't actually realize that we are light. We have so many patterns and restrictions and contractions that this world has forced us into, boxes, right? And we think that we have to suffer in order to have this human experience, but in suffering there is much medicine. Suffering and the darkness is there to show us what we are not, because light form is pure bliss and love and high frequency vibration. Whereas this planet is beautiful and very dense and heavy, it's there for us to experience what it is to walk in a denser form. Yet we just seem to accept that we must have all these trials and tribulations because we've got to remember who we truly are, right? Can you see where I'm going with that? We are light and we are beings of the Creator. We are children of the Creator. Whatever title you want to give that, titles don't really matter, right? It's the essence and the frequency, and that's who we truly are. But when we come down into a heavier form, which is dense, we forget. We come with no memory unless we're super lucky and we remember we're an ascended master of light when we come into a body. We're here to remember that we are the light. And then we can help other people remember that they are the light too.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. I was also thinking about, like we all do, come across challenges and difficult things in our lives. How do you peace? How do you manage it for yourself?
Oh gosh. So it's amazing question. I have always had a resilient mind, even in the darkest of dark places that this earth walk has taken me. I've always known that there is a higher purpose, and all the work that I have gathered in my medicine bag, so to speak, has led me to the point now where it's unshakable. The truth that I know and how I navigate life's challenges. But it wasn't always as fluid as it is now to shift the mindset, because we live in that heavy, heavy energy, more so now than we have ever experienced. We are witnessing the collapse of all the old timelines, and it's being shown to us right here. It's undeniable now, the lies and the coercion and the manipulation and the level and depth of control. And this could end up being a super woo-woo conversation, right? That maybe is activating or challenging for whoever listens to this, because there is real evidence now that there are non-human or non-benevolent beings walking this planet, and always have been, that control us and that take our energy for their own. And that was sort of shown when the whole adrenochrome and Pizzagate and the child trafficking, all the tunnels were being exposed, and that's kind of like, I get shivers when I think back to, what was uncovered from 2018, 2019 onwards. Really, that was the catalyst that is showing us now the depth of control that we have been under as slaves to these controllers. I jokingly call them the fat controllers, right? Because their gender, right? We know what Klaus Schwab looks like, right? He's the Dr. Evil, with all the evil, like James Bond, with the white cat, he that is the epitome of evil. And but this was shown to us really in plain sight, and that is kind of like the parody of what is actually really going on. And who are these entities that are possessing these kind of human looking, but Klaus Schwab does not look human to me, right? I can see the kind of like the overlay of human and what the evil behind it. And I don't mean evil in the classic sense. It's just the frequency is very dark and malevolent, right? And that is the depth that we have been living under, but we don't have to anymore, because we, as the children of creators that are all waking up, can actually see how we can collapse that timeline. And it's doing it. They're doing it themselves because they've had the mask taken off. They made us wear masks, but we see them now. And way back years ago, I knew there was something big coming. We just didn't know. Being a seer, I see stuffs, right? And we just didn't know what it was going to be called and how it would look. And then 2019 hit. And I was like, right, this is what it is. Whatever your beliefs are, and we all have whatever we believe, and that's all good. I'm not here to try and convince anyone of my truth. This is just my truth and the truth of many of us that work in the liminal spaces. So it's been a real being human basically is a real challenge, right? But when we start to really remember and we step into our truth and into our soul purpose, and we say, right, we're not having that anymore, there's like a cascade of things that happen. And then we get to walk differently, we get to act differently, we speak differently, and we assist others, right? Because we are powerful, we're very powerful.
The assisting others is another thing that is of interest to me. When I think about the work I've done in the past, how I started working and I lost my way for a long time in my life in terms of career, if you like, and then certain things happening at certain times in my life, which caused me to change direction and kind of begin to understand a bit more about what's going on, what's happening for me. It's fascinating, isn't it, with these things. I'm just going to play a bit of devil's advocate here. I guess I'm sure lots of people will refer to you as a bit of a conspiracy theorist. How do you respond? How do you respond to that? I should imagine you must get quite a bit of that.
No,
Oh, you don't? All right, okay. That's interesting. So people were accepting you for how you are.
It's probably more that over the last few years, I now repel people out of my field of awareness that don't resonate. So I don't actually ever have somebody come to me and say, you're off your tree. That's all BS, because I must give off a form of energy that is like a cloaking device. And people that might think that I'm a conspiracy theorist, now they're being proven that everything we talk about is true. So they're going like, I can't say anything because this woman's right. And B, if they think I'm weird, I'm quite happy to say thanks. I accept that compliment, and that's part of really knowing that you're really on your soul path, your reason of being here, because you actually don't give a monkey's what anybody says to you anymore. And you take every opportunity as a lesson to learn from or give you a message that you are actually doing great. So I just go, thanks, I'm doing great. My job here is done. I think it's fun when I might get somebody just look at me a bit weird because we have to move in the world where people are going, what the hell? People don't really know what the heck to believe right anymore because there's so much coming forwards, but we do not spend any time with people that we know are not aligned to speak with.
You have, Peter, you have the gift of gratitude. And that is something that I've
Yes.
learned actually in recent years particularly, is even when a challenge comes along, is actually to call out to the universe and say thank you for showing me this lesson. Thank you for putting me in this position so that I can grow, so that I can learn.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
great
I
gift.
can remember in a similar way to yourself, Peace. I've had situations where I've been really challenged in many ways. It's particularly in the workplace, and I've turned around. One of the answers I had for somebody many years ago was, "Okay," I said to this guy, "Whatever happens at the end of this, I hold on to my integrity." And the guy didn't have an answer to that. He was it was so it's kind of like when we're kind of challenged to. Um, I used to fall into this danger zone of losing my identity and not starting to disbelieve myself and starting to disbelieve my
Yeah.
reality. And it's gets to a point where kind of you finally break out of that
Mm.
and having.
Yeah, we've all been there, right? All of us. I mean, God, I used to be a very wild child, like super wild, and a wild young adult as well. Rebelling. I mean, my rebellion was fierce, and then but then the conditioning really hit, and you because you try to go, oh God, I've got to do all these things, and I really don't want to, but I'm going to have to, and blah blah blah. I've never. Let me just put it this way: I've never really held down a job because I just do not fit anyone's box, and I just like I'm not doing that. That's my attitude. I'm not doing that. That's not right. That goes against humanity, and think, whatever. Rules that humans make are absurd. That's what I feel.
And you survive and you're still here. But there's something. There's something correct there, isn't there? There's something right about that. Something about holding on to that integrity and saying, actually, this is my reality. This is how I'm going to live my life, despite what you throw at me. And I think it's that calmness that I'm picking up from you as we're talking today. There's a calm gentleness in you that radiates out.
Yes. Yeah.
There was a the other thing.
Yeah. I came up with a good summary of that the other day. Soul, fire, and spice, because I'm quite spicy, but my soul is on fire. So there is a grace. I like to think of it as a grace to walk with in deep reverence for being on this earth at this most momentous time in our transition as humanity, as a species, where we really are faced with continuing with same shit different day, or no more, not on my watch. Okay, so there is the grace, which embodying the name Peace and your podcast Peace Unplugged, and the fierceness of saying not on my watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, that's beautiful. I love the way you put that over.
And a lot of humor, often very
Yeah,
dark.
yeah. We all like a bit of dark humor. I like a bit of dark humor. I'm always find it.
Gets us
Yeah, yeah.
through.
We have to manage with a little bit of that, and actually recognizing that
Yes.
sometimes is allowing other people to. If other people are offended by something, then they kind of go, well, okay, they've got to own it, own that for themselves. Because I'm quite happy with as far as I'm concerned, that my intentions are always honourable. Can always it's always a situation where somebody challenges you for something and they go, well, actually, look, I didn't come in here today to make a mistake. I didn't deliberately set out to make a mistake on something. My intention is always in a positive. But sometimes things happen and they go wrong. Okay, we've got to get on with it and find out the next kind of way around. Okay, okay, Pete. So I'm going to ask you that's the question that I ask everybody, or nearly everybody. Sometimes I forget to ask it. Is what brings you peace? And I'd like you to answer that, not just in sort of, just think about that deeply for a minute. Think perhaps a little bit beyond
Mm.
what the immediate response is, and find something, maybe something hidden.
What a great question. I love that you choose to ask that to your guests. So thank you. So what gives me peace, like deep inner peace in my world, is always when I step barefoot onto the body of our mother. She brings me home to stillness and deep devotional reverence to life. And the opposite of that is when I don't do that. We can get so easily out of alignment and into disharmony by denying that the very planet that we live on is everything to us. She, our great mother, whatever you want to call it, most people just go, oh, that's grass. Oh, that's a tree. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? My entire world is to reconnect everyone who is ready to deeply remember that we have done our great mother a big disservice. So we've got to feel it first. We've got to feel that deep emotion, that grief in a tsunami to wash away the glitter and the glamour of the life that we are currently living, whatever that is looking like. And this is why most of the time I'm convincing people not to work with me as a mentor. It's hit me today that I'm not one of those soul mentors that convince you to work with me. I try to convince you not to work with me because of the depth that we go to when we start to remember. It is a phenomenal tsunami that will wash over you and through every part of you. And that in itself is like losing contact with somebody that you deeply, deeply love unconditionally, whoever or whatever that is, whether, that moment of creation that just breaks you open with love that you've never felt before. That's kind of, for me, how I feel when I deeply connect with my peace, which is the Great Mother, the earth that we depend upon for our very survival. But when we really connect and we begin to see how complicit we are in her dishonoring, it can be incredibly emotional, the biggest grief you will ever feel. Yet from there, your awakening becomes so much stronger, but you're never ever the same again. So can you see why I say I try and convince people not to work with me until they're ready to go into those spaces of their own unbecoming? Because we have to shed before we can be reborn. You think of the phoenix, we're reduced to ashes, and then we immediately are reborn again, completely different. So that is the depth of peace that I feel, because I know the pain of what we have done and we are doing continually by bypassing how we live, and the depth of change that happens once we really start to connect again and go, not on my watch. We've got to do this because we are going to be responsible for our own extinction. And I'm not one of these Extinction Rebellion BS bypassing, green lighting, washing, whatever. That is the worst thing, and all this climate crisis stuff. I am not in that brigade at all, and I feel very, very strongly about that is it's a bypass over what we are really capable of doing and how we really have to stop doing what we do now. I remember Al Gore was one of the main things he said, it's not business as usual anymore, and unfortunately he got shut down. he really brought into attention many, many years ago the destruction of our planet. But it's more than that. It's our own destruction that we are on a course of. And so that's the depth of the medicine work that we reconnect in when I'm working with my clients. Mother Earth is
You're quite a
everything.
warrior, aren't you?
I am okay. Yeah.
For want of a better word, your battle is somewhat spiritual. Am I right there?
I wouldn't use the language battle because this is a fight that's already
Right.
over. There is a war going on. It's a spiritual war. It's a war against humanity. From I'm trying to feel into the word what I could use. From where I am, and when you say I am, whatever comes after that is it real power, right? I am is the biggest statement you can make, but what you put after the I am is huge. So I am light. And if you say that as a mantra, I am light. I am, think of all the words that are so positively charged. So when you are light and you embody light, there's no fight, there's no battle. There is only light. And there is only now in this very moment. So, coming from that place of being light, we shine that light of our soul into the darkness, not to destroy the darkness, because we can't destroy darkness, because it doesn't need to be destroyed. It needs to be witnessed and held in light so that the darkness remembers what it truly is, which is light. And this has been going on since the very moment of creation, which never ends. So when you really step into the light, it's game over for the negative. So that's the light embodied process. So there's no battle. Yet we are so powerful beyond our imagining. And that is what the less benevolent beings, put it mildly, are so scared of. We are feared because of who we truly are. And the darkness has yet to remember what it truly is. So, really, this is about self mastery. So, you don't need to ever fight for anything. You stand in light so that the darkness doesn't touch you. And when it does come into your awareness, you shine light harder than before. You're not going, oh my God, oh God. Believe me, we've all done that. We all sink into the whole fear and the desolation and all this. But when we truly remember and start to embody our truth and our light, life becomes infused with a divine presence. So it gives you that reason of being. And when you change from being a doing, which is all about distraction, to being, which is all about becoming and remembering, it's kind of a game changer energetically, and your entire life can change. But often it's a real difficult path when you try and do it on your own, because that's what we've been told. We have to be separate. We live separately. We don't live as a tribal culture anymore. Our villages have been, I'm a child of the 60s, right? I remember street parties and everybody helped. Everybody looked out for the kids, looked out for each other. Yeah. Where's that gone?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, how things are changing. Something I wanted to
Yeah,
say
it's
to you when you were talking about light, it reminded me of the Marianne Williamson. Are you aware of about where she says you're a child of God. Don't hide your light under the bushel. Don't hide your light under a rock. We are who we are for that light, and So what you were saying there really connected with those words. Funny because that quote often gets misquoted as Nelson Mandela, doesn't it? When I first heard of it, I thought it was a
I
speech that
don't know.
Nelson Mandela made. But what he'd done was he borrowed Marianne Williamson's words, I think, during a speech, or allegedly anyway, I believe something along those lines.
I've no
Yeah,
idea
there
about
was
that.
something, there was
But hey,
something kind of thing about it. He was either misquoted, or he did use those words, but they weren't his words; they were Marianne's words, and I found they rather
yeah,
beautiful.
okay, cool.
The other thing I wanted to say to you was
Yeah, exactly.
we were talking about, I'm a mindfulness meditation facilitator, have been for about 15 years. Discovered that about 15 years ago, I say quite by chance. It was probably serendipitous about where I was at the time, how that happened. And we're talking about, when you were talking about connection with the life, connection with others, is that you're aware of the Metta Bhavana, the um, the meditation of loving kindness. Have you come across that one before?
Probably a
Yeah.
version of
So
it,
it's very
yes.
much because what it's the meditation where we start with ourselves and we ask the universe for us to be well and for us to be calm, and then as we accept that, then we ask it for those that are around us, perhaps in the room for the meditation, and build it outward. And I build it right out to the earth itself, to everything, living organisms. I say there's various different people use their own kind of bit of language with it a little bit and different things, but it is a I think technically a Buddhist meditation, but it's a very beautiful meditation that when I do meditations for
Mm,
people for the first time, I use that one first time because it's really quite powerful. It's it's that thing about actually it's building our own strength first before we give away too much to others. Have you ever interesting? Have you ever
yeah, very.
experienced that where that wanting to give to other people, and then we then become our vessel becomes empty, and the whole energy gets taken away from us, and it's really, I find it really really difficult to cope with that, and having to remember that actually
Mm,
that word selfish, isn't it, gets misused.
yes,
We need to look after
yes,
ourselves first before we go to
100%. Yeah, we can't serve unless we are full, and that's something that I write as one of my embodied practices is I serve from a place of fullness. And if I'm not full to overflowing, i.e., you get told you're full of yourself, right? Who's been told that? Often. She's full of herself, he's full of himself. Yeah, goddamn right. Another opportunity to say thank you for recognizing that I am a priority. Because if I don't, how can you serve anyone? So serve from a place of fullness.
that's a great life lesson. Let's hope some of the people that are appear to be um, in our sort of superficial world appear to be our leaders. Let's hope that they hear that if they don't already know it, or maybe they might know it in words but not know it in reality. I think that's the true wisdom, isn't it? That can come from somebody that says, "Right, I'll serve when I'm
It
full."
is. It is. And that's something, that I like, when we had to reschedule today's talk, because there's no way that you can really be present if you're not okay. And I will always, if I've got a client and I'm not okay, I'll immediately say, look, my love, can I please ask for another time? Because I'm not okay to serve you today. So that is integrity as well. I'm sure you see a lot of space holders and healers that will burnt out and they're still serving. And a lot of us work a job as well as delivering their healing arts instead of really living in their full embodied joy. It's a struggle. This is how how we've had this life constructed that we must struggle and strive and live in fight and flight. So now it's like it's a devotion. I call this a devotional practice. If you have a strong devotional practice, whatever that looks like, and maintain it with integrity and authenticity day in, day out. And sometimes that can look like I'm lying on the couch under my blanket with a hot water bottle. That's me being completely in my integrity. Or on the other end of the scale, you're working with clients, you're holding ceremony, you're doing whatever you're doing, and you're high energy. Both are showing your devotional practice to your soul path. So it can look however it looks for you. And the reminder is to really go into your process, your mind, and look after that first. Look after your vessel, your body, and look after your beautiful mind. Make sure you're weeding that every single day, taking out which is not yours, and being impeccable with where you're placing your focus and attention. And that is how we change the world. And drink cacao every day as well.
That is how we change the world. What a wonderful statement. Okay, Peace. I'm going to give you now the opportunity to unashamedly promote what you do, because this is what I like to listeners. If you're listening out and you're enjoying this podcast, please please subscribe, please follow Peace today. And this is a great process of learning, a very special kind of learning, not the kind of the learning that we're brought up to think is learning. This is a much deeper kind of learning. So, Peace, please say what it is that you do. Ask people to follow you, and be blessed with that, because people will.
That would be beautiful, to deeply connect with people, with other souls. Wearing a body, whatever that looks like, however that's experienced, is my reason of walking this earth. And I don't I am a medicine woman first and foremost. And that wisdom has come through from many timelines and is continuing to be remembered. So if you are resonating with some of the way that I speak, that's no coincidence. Okay, so remembering, we do a lot of language rewiring in when we work together. We are putting parts of ourselves back together again, remembering, because we carry every part of wisdom. We just need to remember it. So working together is all about stopping the shiny object syndrome, walking away from the mind candy of all the things that are out there to tempt and distract us. And literally, it is a homecoming. So I have various ways that others can step into this realm of quantum remembering. One is booking a one-to-one session or a series of one-to-one sessions. I adore working one-to-one deeply with people because we really, really uncover and remember a lot. Okay, so uncovering, seeing beyond the illusion, and then remembering, bringing parts of ourselves home to our very soul light. Because let's face it, our lives are fracturing by a very nature of what we see and experience. So when we start calling parts of ourselves back, we are empowering ourselves to walk differently on this earth. So it's incredibly intense work a lot of the time, but my God, we have a lot of fun as well. So there's that way. I also am a facilitator of quantum regression integration therapy, which has been the biggest, most fast-tracked modality I have ever stepped fully into. And I give that for bringing everything else that I've experienced in this life right up to the forefront and transmuting it into who I am yet to become. And I say that because we are never meant to stay how we are. We're always stepping into a higher version of ourselves. And we ask that, like you said earlier, that we ask that for all life as well. to be able to actively step into their greatest, grandest, highest version, however that looks. And what you don't get from me is being told what to do. I'm not ever going to tell you what to do. I ask so many questions for you to discover exactly what it is for your next cycle of remembering. And it's not a one and done thing either. So we're working together on a regular basis. I also do amazing stuff as well with digital content and stuff that helps make life easier for anyone who is in a soul-led business that wants to do less of the brain stuff and enjoy life more. So I've got tools that help there. But the deep work is the remembering, the soul remembering. And I adore that. So as a medicine woman, I take people into plant medicine work. Not going to really talk too much about that here because of the some people might be triggered with some of the medicines that we work with, but one is
Mm-hmm.
cacao. I've been a cacao medicine practitioner for many, many years now, and she facilitates great change. She opens up the heart so we can begin to really feel what love is. Because one of the big questions I ask everyone is, can you honestly say that you love yourself? And 99.9% of people say, I have absolutely no idea how to love myself. And that is the number one place we begin, is learning what it feels like to love yourself unconditionally. Even on days where you can barely function, that's when you need to love yourself even more than when you're on your highest of high days, when you're vibing with all the unicorns, right? So, and I also have a membership community called Inner Sanctum, which is a temple space, a living devotional space. And that the doors for founder members are closing at the end of April. And being a founder member of this space is more than just a nice idea. It's not passive. You are stepping into through a portal of incredible transformation. And I am the space holder, and we learn to space hold for each other impeccably so we can all remember and walk this earth as though we are walking on the back of a goddess, because we are. And it makes your world different. So part of the great remembering is when we start to work together. That's a kind of big, expansive way of saying what I do, who I am, and want to have fun? Come and join me.
Bless you. And your website is, remind me your website address. How can people contact you?
So peaceravenwood.com.
It's lovely. This has been beautiful today, Peace. I, my belief is that it was meant to be. It's felt like a calling to do what I'm doing now with these podcasts and to connect with people
Beautiful.
all over the world. I started this off really just trying to help people in my local community to be well and to connect, and realizing that actually that even local issues are important because they apply everywhere. They apply all over the world.
They
What
do.
might be a little sort of local politics about house building where I live can apply to somebody right across the other side of the world in a completely different culture, because those same issues.
Yeah.
I found this when I used to write blog posts years ago, and I got to when this internet stuff really started to connect around, and realizing that connecting with people from utterly different cultures, those people have the same concerns and worries and desires that we all do,
Mm-hmm.
about looking after family, about the environment, about where the next meal's coming from, perhaps work, and being curious about the
Mm.
world in general, and being curious about what it is, why we're here. And I found that for me, when I discovered that just through typing words, reading other people's blogs, really changed my view of humanity in a big way. All
Mm.
of a sudden I wasn't kind of restricted, stuck in my own culture anymore. Found that you start to understand other people's cultures and to understand. I think, and I truly believe that if we can do that, then we stand a better chance of getting on better as a human race. There's a one of
Yeah.
one of my
Yeah.
favourite
What a beautiful
things
thing.
is emotional intelligence. Communicate with emotional intelligence,
Yes.
because if we're able to do that, then we stand a far greater chance of coming to some agreement over some things, and that it's not personal. We might disagree about things, but if we disagree, it doesn't have to be
Hmm.
personal. It can just be accept the other person's point of view and maybe come to some kind of agreement in the middle somewhere. Then potentially.
Well, yeah, it's like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why I always carry with a disclaimer at the beginning. Please take what you will from this conversation and leave what doesn't resonate, right? Because everyone's reality is their reality. Your reality is not my reality, and vice versa. And that is beautiful. We're not meant to have the same reality because we chose to come and have this very unique experience. And I feel that perhaps could that be the great coming together when we realize that whatever we feel and think is perfect just exactly as it is. It doesn't have to ever be what other people think and feel,
I when I worked
because we're not
when I worked
here
in
to tell anyone how to feel.
my job as a drugs and alcohol practitioner before I retired, very often, they'd sort of say, "Oh, I tried to go to AA, I tried to go to NA. I didn't like it. It's not for me because, or I don't want to go to it because I don't like the God thing. I don't like the spiritual side of it." And I always used to say to people, "Go along. The meeting is the packaging. Take from it what is useful to you. Other bits that you don't find useful, then you can let them go. The whole thing is not. It's what's inside that matters, not necessarily." And
Yeah.
sometimes we do take away the packaging. Perhaps we might take away the packaging because we might find the packaging useful. But very often, the packaging is not the
Mm.
key point of it. So, again, I encourage people to be,
Yeah.
when they're trying something new, if they get stuck, then try something new. Try something new
Mm.
with curiosity, with care, and it's like dipping the toe in the water.
And the big
Yeah,
L word. Yeah. Yeah. Use the big L word, the love
yeah,
word, right? One of my great teachers, if anybody is interested in who inspire me, because we love sharing who our inspirations are, right? Matt Kahn, True Divine Nature on YouTube. He was one of the biggest teachers for me in my darkest times. And to this day, I adore his teachings and his transmissions. Teal Swan, for example, another incredible emissary of spirit. Fierce. Her words are fierce, but she loves fiercely as well. And I class myself, I love fiercely and unconditionally. Somebody could go, why? Why would you go and hug that person over there? Why wouldn't I? Is my question back. Because I love. And God, we need more of that in this world. We don't need more hate and division. We need more unity and more realization that we are more than this human, this thing,
yeah,
this
yeah.
expression. And so go and immerse things.
There's something about I've great lover of the use of language, and one of the things sort of learned about is
Yes.
like asking open questions, the what, when, how questions. And I can remember in some training I had years ago saying, "Be careful of the use of the word why, because it can be judgmental." And I thought about this just recently, and actually, what why can be a bit of a stuck word. It can be a word that creates a bit of a there's nowhere to go. And I've, I've said this before. I think in some other languages there's no word for it, but what it means is for what purpose. So when somebody says to you, why did you go
Yeah.
and hug that person? That can be a stuck question, can't it? If you say for what purpose, then it has motion. You're able to actually then describe, for what purpose did you go and hug that person? Makes it easy to explain, doesn't it? You're given the
That's a really brilliant thing. Yes.
and that's something that was a revelation. That was kind of a revelation to me and my own thoughts probably about 3 weeks ago. So again, language
Yeah, I
fascinates me.
love language like it does. And language is I mean, we could talk for hours, I'm sure. Languages can be so loaded, right? And I love children, right? I've got two amazing godsons, and Sam's nearly 3 and Ben is like almost 2. Well, he's coming up 2. So you can imagine now that the main word is no to everything for Sam, and it's like no. And I'm going, fabulous, that's amazing. Come on. No. Great. Okay. And then the next one they go into is why, isn't it? Those phases of self-discovery as children. My goodness, don't they teach us something when we take away the conditioning of our parents, that can get so annoying that every word they utter is no or why. And you can flip the switch on that and really embrace how they're learning and what they're teaching you as an old person. And so I love it when I get to spend time with my godsons, because we just have so much fun. I have no idea if they understand what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what words come out. It's the vibration that comes out. They feel it. The first words that I said to my godsons when they were born is, welcome to Earth, beloved. You are going to be so amazing. I'm here for you. Remember me. And I get so emotional. And I don't actually speak those words. It's a transmission of energy when you look into the eyes of another soul. And that is why eye contact is so vital. And why when you look into the eyes of any living being, you don't need to open this and let noise come out. Going back to language is very loaded.
Yeah. But there's more than one way to communicate, isn't there?
So
there's more than one way to communicate. I think we're about finished. I think, Peace. So I wish you a blessed day. Okay,
you too.
and this will come out at some later time. So thank you very much for being part. Okay, bye for now.
Thank you, Martin, for this. Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow, like, and share. Thank you very much. Martin, Peace Unplugged.